Remember a while back, I had a video about the secret to getting free gear? It happened again. I've been traveling a lot more for work and for pleasure. And when it's work travel, a lot of the time I need to bring a guitar. Something that I can trust, that I'm used to. So much of guitar is based on muscle memory. So even if you're using like the hottest of hot guitars, it's gonna be tough for you if you don't know the guitar well. And I don't like to think I'm a picky guitar player, but there are some pretty specific things that I always do to my guitars that I wanna talk about today. I was telling my good buddy that I think getting a project Strat would be perfect. They're bulletproof. If I break something, I can replace it. It's sort of like my Jeep. If something breaks, I probably have the replacement part in my garage so that it'll work. And my buddy just so happened to have a Strat that needs some TLC, not the band, the attention. Part of any hobby is utilizing the skill you've learned in that hobby to be able to take an objective look at your tools and know what you need and what can be improved. Now some guitars, they just aren't for you, that's fine. But others just need like a little bit of optimization. I know without even touching this guitar that it's got good bones. So let's talk about upgrades and optimizations and the way I approach to evaluating a guitar, how I can make it better and how I can make it mine. A lot of people dive headfirst into the expensive upgrades of a guitar before they even know it well enough to know what it's missing. So let's start with the free and cheap things you can do to a guitar to make it yours, to make it awesome. Whoa, she's stinky. So even if your guitar is brand new, listen up. Not every guitar is perfect from the factory. Guitars are intensely personal things and you gotta mingle with them a little bit. So what do I look for in a new guitar? This is a 2005 American Standard Strat. It's candy apple red, rosewood fretboard. It's a classic. So looking at it right away, of course it needs strings. I don't think this has been played for a long time. In fact, this is a famous guitar. This was used at the 2020 NAMM show for the SY1000 demonstration. But for now, we are gonna remove the synth pickup. Removed. I see the bridge is blocked. I'll fix that. I'm a floaty trem guy. So the first upgrade that this guitar needs is a setup. There is absolutely no way to know what mods or upgrades you need to a guitar if it plays like poop and doesn't stay in tune. That's science. And I mentioned free and cheap mods. If you set it up yourself, a setup costs you only the strings. Whoa! I've set up a lot of guitars. I've done everything from fretwork to finishing, and 90% of the stuff that's in a setup, you can do yourself. Not to discredit a good tech, that last 10% is something that takes experience. But if you want to get anywhere near that level of experience, you gotta do it yourself. So setting up your new or new to you guitar, truss rods, you gotta learn how to adjust them. What I do to check if it needs a truss rod adjustment is I put my fingy on the 1st fret, I put my fingy on the 14th fret, and I diddle the 7th fret there. You don't want a lot of play, you gotta play with it. Don't let people scare you from adjusting the truss rod yourself. It actually takes quite a bit of force to break the truss rod. My tip for you is if it requires more than 2 fingers of torque, back off, take it to a tech. Learn how to adjust the bridge and saddles. These are little adjustments you can do to really improve the playability of your guitar on the fly. Don't touch the nut of the guitar unless you're prepared to pay a tech to fix it. But I recommend that. Play with the nut, experiment, break stuff. If you do want to cut a nut yourself, just get the right files and go slow. A little bit of material at a time, measure twice, cut once, you know the rules. When you're setting up your guitar, look at it in zones. If the action is high, above the 12th fret, and it's hard to play up there, look at the bridge setup. Look at how high the bridge and saddles are. If it's kind of a little hard to play in the middle of the fretboard, that's probably truss rod. You probably want to adjust that truss rod because the bow of the neck kind of goes like this. And if it's playing really difficult at the cowboy chords, you're probably going to want to lower the nut, so take a look at that. But it really is truly a harmony between those 3 points. You kind of have to learn and experiment with dialing in those 3 points. Now, if you really like low action and light strings, that's really where fretwork comes into play and the quality of the fretwork. When we talk about modding a guitar and upgrading a guitar, you really have to start with a benchmark. And that's by setting this puppy up and making it play as good as you can. Give it its fairest shot. Woo! Now I know you want to talk about guitar pickups. It's an exciting topic. But first, I want to talk about the most underrated guitar mod of all time. This mod is the heart of the tone of a Strat. But first, I think we need a little bit of guitar noodling, don't you think? So let me tell you a story. I bought a custom-made guitar. It took 11 months to get here. It came, it was beautiful. It was my dream guitar at the time. It was a Suhr guitar and it was wonderful. And I bought it to be my Strat, but there was always something missing. And after toiling away, looking at all the parameters, I figured out that it was the bridge. The bridge was preventing it from sounding like a Strat, and that's because it had solid steel saddles. The bridge is probably the most important part of your guitar because not only does it affect the sound, it's also affecting the tuning stability, the playability. It's a really integral part of the guitar. Don't be like me. Before you get sad about your Strat tones, look at the saddles. It's a cheap mod and it makes the world of difference. While I could have just replaced the saddles on this guitar, I replaced it with a full-on Godot bridge. A big part of why I like this Godot is it's very, very high quality. It comes with bent steel saddles, and this Godot has a collar on the trem arm to help you avoid that sloppy trem Strats are famous for. And it allows you to adjust how tight the bar is with the set screw on the back. Pretty cool, eh? All right, let's get to the subject everybody wants to talk about. So as of right now, I'm thinking this guitar is sounding pretty damn good. If the goal in mind for this guitar is to sound like the strattiest Strat that ever stratted, personal preference, the sound is a bit dark, especially when you roll the volume down. Now, assuming you've taken the time to optimize by changing your strings, intonate, set up, make sure you got good cables, this is where I would start looking at your electronics. This is your pickups and everything up to the guitar cable you're plugging into. Now, before we start spending money on new pickups, we gotta talk goals. If you want to drastically change your sound, like going from a single coil to a humbucker, change your pickups. Go for it. But if you want to refine the sound, you want to try to improve it, I wouldn't recommend replacing your pickups right away. There's cheap things you can do to help. The free mod is play with your pickup height. Bringing them closer will increase the output, but pickups are not flat response, so it's going to increase certain frequencies more than others. Take a look at the pots. Sometimes they can be really low quality or the wrong resistance rating. 250K pots are generally for single coils. 500K pots are generally for humbuckers. While you're in there, look for breaks in connections and obviously bad solder joints. A cold solder joint will pass signal, but sometimes will sound very noticeably dull or lower output, and that could be the answer that you're looking for. Another crazy cheap mod for people who roll their volume down a lot is a treble bleed circuit. It's so cheap. It's so cheap. It's like $2 worth of parts, and it retains the high end as you roll the volume down on your guitar. Strat, there's two mods I almost always do. I always make sure the bridge pickup is connected to the bottom tone control on a Strat. I just appreciate the flexibility of dialing down the bridge pickup a little bit. The other is the neck on mod. The neck on mod is popularized by David Gilmour, my hero. It turns the neck pickup on in any position of the Strat, so you can get neck and bridge at the same time, or all three pickups in parallel at the same time. It's almost like a telly-like sound. It just gives you a little bit more versatility. And for like a $2 switch and a little bit of wire, it's so easy to do. You're crazy to not do it. Once I've done all my optimizations and I'm ready for pickups, I wait. For pickups, generally you want to have a benchmark for yourself and get an idea of what specifically are you missing. There are a million pickup choices out there. All of them have very subtle differences. Do you need more output? Do you want it tighter, brighter, thicker? These are all things you need to consider before you start shopping for pickups. Buying pickups is a bit of a risk because there isn't truly any way to know how they sound until they're in your very guitar. So once you have a good idea of what your goal is and you have a benchmark, try to find opinions from people who have a similar guitar as yours. And since we've established that I like to break stuff, you can also get into pickup modding. Since pickups are so simple, you can change the magnet really easily to just change the magnetic field slightly. It's super easy. You just have to be really careful and be okay with breaking the odd pickup every once in a while. Before you go buying expensive upgrades, get to know your creative tool, be objective, optimize, upgrade, and try some things. Have some fun with it. Speaking of trying new things, in the interest of the theme of this channel, and because I dropped something on it and put another dent in it, I'm gonna do something I've never done before. It was a no-go zone before this moment. You put a sticker on it. Nice. Man, I'm so cool. Now you may have noticed I didn't do any of the electronics mods I discussed to this guitar. And that's because for this guitar, I'm replacing every single bit of the electronics with a dream. Something I've always wanted to try out, but for years, internet opinions and naysayers have scared me off. And I'll admit, these pickups are out of my comfort zone, but that's what this channel is all about, trying new things to spark creativity. So stick around for the next video of this Strat. You won't want to miss it, I promise. By the way, if you do want to get sneak peeks, early access to videos, and get a shout out at the end of the video, as well as chat about gear and stuff, I just started a Patreon page, so if you want to click the link down below and support the channel via Patreon, it goes a long way, and I, of course, super appreciate it. Oh, that's the phone. Hello? Oh, the new pickups are here. Great, let's go get them. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.